WATE 6 on your side starts now.
Coming up on Tennessee This Week, we are covering COVID-19, the outbreak leaving communities across the country and here at home grappling with uncertainty. That's including a national emergency and a presidential election year. We'll talk about what voters will make of this response. And we'll talk about money, the virus sending shockwaves through the economy, leaders scrambling to take action. That's all happening here on Tennessee This Week. Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Blake Stevens. Like so many of you, we're doing things a bit differently on this show because of the coronavirus outbreak. Now, we want to start by focusing on what we're hearing from health leaders about protecting you and your family. We also want to spotlight the ways your neighbors are handling all this. First, we have to point out that we're taping this Thursday night, so any numbers of cases we might give you for any locations, well, they would be out of date, so we're not going to do that. We are, though, going to remind you about the CDC's guidance. Their experts say this virus is spread mainly person to person between people in close contact, within 6 feet, actually, from droplets when someone coughs or sneezes. Now, protect yourself by cleaning your hands often. Wash with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, especially after you've been in a public place, blowing your nose, coughing, or sneezing. And if you cannot use soap and water, use hand sanitizer, but make sure you cover all hand surfaces and rub until your hands feel dry. Also, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. That's a tough one, but important. Also, avoid close contact with people who are sick, especially if COVID-19 is spreading in your community. Something the Knox County Health Department expects will happen here. And that goes along with protecting others. Stay home if you are sick, except to get medical care. Again, cover those coughs and sneezes with a tissue or the inside of your elbow. And again, wash your hands. As for face masks, you should wear one only if you are sick or caring for someone who is sick. Doctors and nurses across the country need those masks. Also, clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces daily. We're talking tables, doorknobs, light switches, and faucets. Now, you surely heard about social distancing, staying 6 feet away. Last week, we heard from a newly diagnosed coronavirus patient about why this matters. Reporter Josh Breslow from Nashville. Here's his story, learning what it's like to test positive.
It is physically taxing to cough that much.
It's not hard to hear the struggle in Adam Dennison's voice.
Based on what I've experienced, this is not your normal flu. It's worse. It has felt worse for a week for me anyway.
Dennison's story starts with a wedding cruise in the Caribbean.
Always sanitize our hands, wash our hands. I don't think we touched a handrail the entire time we were on the ship.
A day after Dennison and his husband returned to Nashville, he says he experienced extreme nasal congestion.
I knew that wasn't one of the symptoms for coronavirus, so I wasn't super concerned about it.
His condition quickly worsened.
I started getting a fever, and then from there, it turned into hacking, coughing, like really bad coughing.
When he learned someone else in his group had tested positive for COVID-19, Dennison says he and his husband went to a Vanderbilt site to get checked out. Wednesday morning, their results were in. They were both positive for the novel coronavirus.
It kind of makes me feel like I have a responsibility to share my story and make sure that as many people as possible can understand that they need to be taking the advice of professionals and doing what's needed to stop it.
Dennison is an otherwise healthy 34-year-old man. His concern, though, is for the older population.
I worry about my parents. Just the coughing alone, I feel like, would debilitate them to the point where they would probably have to be hospitalized. We should all be acting like we already have it and don't want to spread it to other people.
The hope for Dennison is that people will heed the warning, listen to his story, and practice social distancing, at least for the time being.
Now, we're just going to keep hammering home this message. If you feel sick, stay home. If children are sick, keep them at home. If someone in your household has tested positive for COVID-19, keep that entire household at home and call your doctor. Now, if you are 65 years of age or older, stay home and away from others. If you have a serious underlying health condition, stay home and away from other people. It's all about staying safe and taking precautions. All right, well, we'll hear from our panel of pundits in just a bit, but before we do, we also want to take a look at another aspect of the impact of the coronavirus. Nonprofits are struggling to keep their mission on track, having to cut down on volunteers and keep their distance during the pandemic. That includes Sleep in Heavenly Peace, an organization we partnered with back in June, building bunk beds for families in need. 6 on Your Side reporter Laura Halm visiting their warehouse to see what's next for their group wanting to help.
Seeing the truck loaded but parked in this garage is heartbreaking.
We're hanging in there.
Last Friday, Sleep in Heavenly Peace got word they had to halt all operations until further notice. That means no deliveries and no build days.
It's hard because, you know, we've got 106 kids that are out there waiting right now, and there's nothing we can do for them.
SHP relies on groups to build bunk beds for families in need.
We can't even get together as a team and work on our tools or make beds on our own or anything like that. They don't want us to gather at all.
This last week has been a tough one as concerns only grow about the coronavirus.
People will call and they really haven't heard that we've basically shut down the operation, and they'll want to know where they are on the list. And I explain to them what's happening and where they are on the list. And so far, everyone's been very receptive and understanding.
Right now, there are so many questions and unknowns. SHP has builds scheduled for April and May, but those are on hold.
We've been behind probably about 2 months on our deliveries to start with, so now this is going to throw at least another month onto that. So we're hoping once everything gets fired back up and we get the okay to go, that we can have a big blitz and hopefully knock a lot of those deliveries out.
At this point, families are not able to request a bed from Sleep in Heavenly Peace. Leaders saying that should help with the backlog.
We've got probably 25 or 26 beds that we can start with, so that'll be a good plus.
This team trying to keep a good outlook.
We'll get through it. It'll be hard, but we'll get through it.
One way you can help right now is by signing up to be a volunteer, getting your name on that list so that when the time comes, there's already a crew ready to go to help build these beds. In Campbell County, Laura Halm, WATE 6 on Your Side.
Now, if you are unable to give your time, there are still 2 ways you can help Sleep in Heavenly Peace right now. Their leaders say you can donate brand new twin-size bedding, or if you have any building supplies, things like lumber, nails, and screws, even tools, you can donate those as well. We've made sure to put contact information and links on our website, WATE.com. Just click on the As Seen On section. Now, we've seen people get creative in dealing with this virus, like a local distillery, Junction 35 Spirits and Pigeon Forge, making hand sanitizer, this out of their Junction 35 vodka. The master distiller telling us they've lost a lot of business due to this pandemic, and they needed another stream of revenue to keep their business afloat. Well, they figured it out. That's when they decided they could make a lot of money while helping make up for the shortage of hand sanitizer.
We were looking for an extra revenue in source, plus trying to keep our employees healthy. Make sure their families were taken care of, that they could sanitize everything they needed to.
Junction 35 is giving hand sanitizer away for free to nonprofits like Mount Hope, Good Shepherd Clinic, and the Maryville Fire Department. But as for the public, you'll get a free bottle of hand sanitizer with any purchase there at the distillery. Well, a family getting creative to save a senior trip. Abby, a senior at Lakeway Christian Academy, was all set to head to New York Tuesday until worry over the virus put that trip on hold. So her mom, Nancy, and her siblings got creative. Nancy says planning took about 2 days, but with help from Abby's sister, Faith, they recreated scenes from Central Park, Grand Central Station, even taking the time to recreate the subway. Look at there's the video there. The best part of it all, it was a total surprise.
Well, it was like 2 days, and she actually didn't know anything until we gave her the letter that morning in the bed, and she was still like, okay, what are you guys doing? She knows that I do crazy stuff.
It made me feel happy that they thought of me and they did something like that, and I guess it's almost better because I'm not really a people person, so having all of it there with my family was a little bit better.
Well, hey, if you're not a people person, now is your time to shine. All right, by the way, Abby and her family are all staying at home right now after being out of town. They are taking online classes as well. Our crews asked Abby what she's looking forward to most once she can venture out of the house. Her answer, Chick-fil-A. All right, I'm with you. Hey, still to come, our panel of pundits is next, talking about the political response to this pandemic and the cost of this crisis. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side.
Hello, I'm Mike Hatmaker. It's a new year, 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland. All the equipment, leather, heated and cooled seats, panoramic sunroof, sale price $21,888, and you get a $1,000 worth of gift cards. Jim Call Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Right now, Champion Comfort 365 windows are buy two, get one free.
Our new windows have made us feel a lot more comfortable in our home.
Let Champion help you fall in love with your home. Book your free in-home consultation online or call 888-930-CHAMPION for buy two, get one free.
WATE 6 on your side wants to feature your classroom reciting the Pledge of Allegiance during Good Morning Tennessee. Submit your video under the Community tab on WATE.com.
Sponsored by the Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
Hello, I'm Mike Hatmaker. Springtime special, 2016 Chevy Camaro SS, loaded out, under 29,000 miles. Sale price $26,888, and you get $1,000 worth of gift cards. So hurry into Jim Call Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
There is an urgent need for people to give blood and platelets amid the COVID-19 outbreak. East Tennessee's blood bank needs our help.
That's why we've joined together to ask for donations. Let's all do our part to make sure that hospitals have access to Medic's life-saving blood supply.
Medic has safety measures in place to make sure everyone who donates is checked before they are allowed to give. You can find information about when and where to donate at medicblood.org. Together,
we can all help save lives.
Hey, welcome back to Tennessee This Week. Well, it's time now to hear from our panel of pundits. We're doing things a little differently today, but we still have 6 on your side political contributor Courtney Piper and 6 on your side political analyst George Korda. Of course, Craig is not here with us today, but, you know, we've seen lots of calls for coming together to take action on the coronavirus for a collective fight against the spread to help our families, help our communities and our country. But when it comes to the government's handling of all this, especially in a presidential election year, politics is already really starting to figure into the equation. We're hearing it in different... Yeah, he's shocked. So I want to talk to you both about how politicians should be handling this, and we found a unique way of asking you. We're going to switch roles around a bit. George, my question, very pointed question here. What should Democrats be doing, and what should they be saying right now, considering that November's around the corner?
All right. People now recognize this as a serious situation for economically, if nothing else. Even if you don't think it's a serious health issue, the economics of it are clearly serious. So Democrats, the Democratic contenders have already been slapped by factcheck.org and PolitiFact for distorting a good many things about the coronavirus. Americans don't want right now to hear, he's evil, he let you down, he's hateful, because they want to believe that the government can come together and do something positive. So, if I were in the Democratic camp, what I would be doing is carving out my own areas in which I can say, we're helping the president to lead, we are engaged with the president on these things, and this is what we want for people, and do the political horse trading that has to happen. And save the he screwed up for the general election when you run ads where he initially was downplaying the significance of the coronavirus, saying, we got it under control, it's like the flu. Initially, that's what he said. So you just pull those clips out, run those, and say he wasn't at the switch where he should have been. Now, the reality is, even in as late as January 14th, the World Health Organization was tweeting out something that said there may not be any evidence that coronavirus can be transmitted person to person. So that would, those kinds of things, as well as Governor Gavin Newsom of California and Mario Cuomo of New York saying nice things about Trump and their handling of this, would be the Trump comeback. But you want to, if you're Democrats, in the general election, hammer no end his initial comments when what he should have said is, we're working on it, we're figuring it out, we're going to do the right things, because at that point, nobody really knew what to do.
I want to get to Courtney, but just real quick follow-up. So was that a mistake on his part to downplay it earlier on, or do you say it was bad information?
I think President Trump has two glaring communications issues. Number one, he has no governor on the use of superlatives to describe himself and what he's doing. And number two, whenever there's a problem that could be an issue for him, he tends immediately to downplay it. Those are tendencies that his staff can clearly not help him overcome. I don't think it's a fatal issue in a campaign, but I think he did hurt himself.
So, Courtney, in this situation, what should Republicans be doing, and are they doing it?
Well, you know, first of all, I would shockingly tend to agree with George on this one. Right now, the moment that we are in is not the opportunity for people to exercise political gamesmanship and say, you know, continue to point out the fact that we were very ill prepared and it was a failure of leadership that we're in the position we are in now. That sort of messaging just takes oxygen out of the room, and we're not accomplishing any sort of a solution. We're in a situation in this country right now, public health wise, where we need people to come together. We need our government to come together and identify solutions to make sure that we are as protected as we can be from the public standpoint.
And to some degree, we saw that, right, with this latest stimulus bill. To
some degree, we saw that. We did not see that necessarily from Senator Blackburn, which was extraordinarily disappointing. You know, our economy is hurting right now, and it will continue to hurt unless and until our government can come together and find the solutions that we need.
Yeah, and I don't mean to cut you off, but we're going to talk more about the economy here in just a minute. But I want to talk about Representative Tim Burchett, who was one of 40 lawmakers who voted against the family's first coronavirus response act, saying it was loaded with big government pork, including expansion of welfare and government programs that have nothing to do with combating coronavirus or assisting small business. Burchett voted yes to an earlier coronavirus relief bill. We want to point that out. But as for this one, he argued the bill was negotiated behind closed doors by a select group, saying, quote, our constituents were kept in the dark until the last moment, and Congress cannot continue to legislate in secret if we expect the trust of the American people. And over in the Senate, a split vote from Tennessee Senators Lamar Alexander and Senator Marsha Blackburn. Blackburn voting against the act, saying it was about small businesses. Unfunded federal mandates placed on them while they are struggling to keep their doors open and meet payroll. Going on to write, at a time when revenue has decreased for many, it is irresponsible to implement a one-size-fits-all government mandate requiring employers to provide paid sick leave. And Senator Lamar Alexander saying, quote, today, we've passed a bill which I supported that encourages more testing and paid leave for businesses with less than 500 employees and paid family sick leave. But I don't believe what we do today or what we propose to do later this week will be enough, because look at the number of people being laid off in this country. What do you two make of those two votes, and really what is a bipartisan effort?
Well, we don't have the money to do what we're doing. We are a nation of almost $23 trillion in national debt, multiplied trillions more in unfunded liabilities, and we're running a deficit this year of almost $1 trillion. We don't have money to do all of these things. Sending $1,000 checks to Americans. We got to borrow the money, add to the debt. Yes, it's an emergency, but I understand what Blackburn is saying. She's saying, we can't, we're telling you we're going to help you over here, businesses, but we're going to stick you with this mandate over here, which is going to cost you more money. She took a political risk not voting for that. So it's either horribly unsympathetic and dangerous, or it's a gutsy move to say at some point it's got to stop. Senator Alexander is exactly right. This is throwing a dart at an elephant.
Now, this is primarily, this bill is for the testing, for the paid leave. You're talking about the $1 trillion proposal as well. We'll get to that one in a minute. We'll get to that one in a minute. But Courtney, this one on the front end that was passed and signed into law, what did you make of it?
It's absolutely needed. And Look, the fact is, if we do have this money or we don't have this money, we're going to be in a dire, dire economic position if we don't do something. And this sort of stimulus package and the response to the global pandemic shows us, is going to show us the failure of the Trump tax cuts. It's for this very reason, these unforeseen reasons, that we can't just keep slicing and dicing with tax cuts left and right when the needs of this country are only going to continue to grow.
There is something to point out about tax cuts, is that record federal income tax revenue has come in since the tax cuts. Record revenues. At the same time, the deficit continues to grow. So the question becomes, is it a matter of revenue or is it a matter of spending? The spending that's already there. And now we have this unforeseen spending on top of the spending that was already there.
We're getting to all that here in just a minute. Still to come, we'll talk more about money, the economics of all of this. You're watching Tennessee This Week from WATE 6 on your side.
Hello, my cat maker. It's a new year with new deals, and check these out. Jeep Wrangler Unlimited discounted $6,000. And you get $1,000 worth of gift cards. 2014 Ford Fusion SE, beautiful interior, sale price $10,888, and you get $1,000 worth of gift cards. 06 Ram 1500 4x4, sale price $99.88, and you get $1,000 worth of gift cards. So hurry on in to Jim Claw Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Time to find my mac and cheese people. It's time to find all my potato people out there. Holla. Ah! Oh, whatever, O'Connell. May the best side be victorious. What you think of Bob Evans' mac and cheese?
It's a flavor sensation.
And those are actual real mashed potatoes made with real butter and real potatoes.
Somebody else does the work and I get the credit.
Creamy, cheesy goodness.
I'm all about it.
Can I finish this? You can finish the whole thing. I think it was pretty clear who won that round.
Get Bob Evans in the grocery store.
All right, welcome back to Tennessee This Week. We're still going here talking about money with Courtney Piper and George Korda. So let's get to the cost. We've seen the stock market plummet due to this virus. Lawmakers are talking about a relief package in addition to that one that we just saw passed, but this one is estimated to cost around $1 trillion. It includes checks going directly to Americans. And after seeing the previous bailouts and stimulus in the wake of the real estate crisis, my question to you two is, how should this package look? How should this package look? Courtney, we'll start with you.
First of all, we know stimulus packages worked. It's the reason we were able to rebound after the Great Recession. So you've got to do something to stimulate the economy, or people start losing their jobs, they can't pay their mortgage, and the ripple effects are astronomical. So you have to do some kind of stimulus. Stimulus packages work.
What about the people that are already losing their jobs? You're going to have people as a result of this, like in the hospitality business, possibly stay unemployed no matter what.
Again, which is why stimulus packages are so important. One of the biggest things that the federal government can do is provide access to capital, so that if a 3-month, 6-month access to capital is required in order for certain industries to stay solvent, they have that ability to do so and perhaps prevent some massive, massive layoffs.
George, what do you make of the $1 trillion, what we're seeing right now?
Well, I'm reminded of the phrase shovel-ready jobs. You remember that from the stimulus package of President Obama? And then when on the back end of it, he was at some function and somebody mentioned it and he said, well, a lot of them weren't as shovel-ready as we thought. Anybody who doesn't vote for one of these things is going to get tabbed with being unsympathetic and uncaring. But to Tim Burchett's point, for example, this didn't get in, but there was an attempt made to do it. Elizabeth Warren, who dropped recently out of the Democratic presidential campaign, tried to put into the coronavirus relief package student loan forgiveness. Now, that's how federal spending gets amped up like an elephant being pumped full of compressed air. And it's also the kind of thing that Birch is talking about, because a lot of stuff like that gets in. That's the horse trading that goes back and forth.
But George, it makes sense. It makes sense for people to say, if you are losing your job, we're going to remove one of your burdens, which is paying this student loan debt, so that you have more liquidity to pay rent, pay other bills.
What about the people who worked hard to pay back their student loans?
Listen, I had student loans to pay.
What about the people? Should they all be reimbursed?
I'm not harboring any resentment for people that might get student loan forgiveness.
Well, that's you, because a lot of people out there are thinking, wait a minute,
those people need to get over it.
I lived in a basement, I worked 2 jobs to pay off a loan, and now Elizabeth Warren wants to come in and...
Nobody's going to get a trophy. Nobody's going to get a trophy.
It's also another $1.5 trillion.
I know
what does it all mean?
I know what we could do, George. I have a brilliant idea. I have a brilliant idea. You're going to love it.
Go ahead.
Payroll tax reimbursement and forgiveness. Employers pay a large chunk of payroll tax to the federal government. And as part of the stimulus package, it can either be reimbursed or forgiven for a period of time. That is one way to stimulate the economy, make sure businesses have a little bit more liquidity and money in their checking account.
I think I like that better than the federal government borrowing money.
Well, they're writing legislation here on Tennessee this week.
As much as I'm willing to agree with you.
Are you going to say it's a brilliant idea?
We'll wait.
Not on your life.
We'll wait. Hey,
but you thought it.
What do you guys make of all this on the back end, though? You know, we're talking, you mentioned the deficit. I think it was commercial break, but we do have a national deficit. Obviously, this adds to it. What does this mean for us long term, these kind of...
What it means long term is, for example, last year, the American taxpayers paid about $450 billion in interest alone on the debt. It just means that's going to go to $500 billion, $550 billion, $600 billion. It's going to keep going up until the sheer weight of the interest on the national debt has us staring into the abyss like a grease. The only reason we can get away with what we're doing, the only reason we can continuously live on this big credit card is the rest of the world is too afraid that we're too big to fail.
That's Courtney?
Well, and as long as we can keep paying the note, the number can balloon and balloon and balloon and balloon and balloon, but as long as the United States government can continue making those payments, you know, we sail right off into the sunset.
And we're running out of time here, but you both agree something has to be done.
Absolutely.
Okay. Before we go...
Politically, if for no other reason.
I've got about 10 seconds for both of you. Any, what do we call it, social distancing, any self-isolating tips for our viewers at home? Anything to do to keep your...
Don't go on TV.
Don't go on
and get
TV.
Within 3 feet of you.
There you go. That's one piece of advice. Good advice.
I don't know. I'm pretty introverted, so this has been fairly easy for me. Day 4.
Been reading.
And if you're a parent with kids in Florida on the beach, tell them to come home.
A lot of folks echo that. All right. Hey, that's our time. We hope you'll join us next Sunday at 12:30 for more Tennessee This Week. We're going to go wash our hands. Take care.
Of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Next Star Broadcast.